The Travel Transformation Podcast is proud to be partnered with Give the Goodness Global, an amazing global outreach project helping families in need all over Southeast Asia and beyond. Please check them out at Instagram.com/Give the Goodness Global today. And now on to the podcast episode.
Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation, exploring the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply wish to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, certified travel coach, founder of the Travel Transformation Company, and your host for the Travel Transformation Podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation. I'm your host, Jessica Grace Coleman, or Jess, and today is just going to be a quick solo episode about colivings. Why should you give them a go? Now, I've talked about colivings a lot on this podcast, on my social media, in my emails, and my blog, but still a lot of my friends and family don't really understand what they are or why you would even stay at one. So I thought I'd do a quick podcast episode all about it. Now, there are so many co-livings out there, especially since the pandemic and especially in Europe. Personally, I've stayed in co-living houses in Thailand and Spain, as well as a kind of DIY co-living house organised by my friend in South Africa, which is another option if you want to stay somewhere while working remotely and you have other people who want to join you in doing the same. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about actual co-living houses, ones you can go online and book. My go-to co-living, as you probably know if you've listened to this podcast at all, is a company called Sun & Co, but there are plenty others out there. The main ones on my radar that I want to go to next, the Chateau Co-living in France, Cloud Citadel, which is also in France, in the mountains, and Sue in Spain, and quite a few are popping up in Switzerland now as well, and having just come from Switzerland, I really want to go back and explore a lot more of that country, so that would be perfect for me. So, first of all, what are co-living houses? Well, if you're picturing a kind of hippie commune type of place, well, you're not far off. No, seriously, they're usually in nice big houses, and some of them can have hostel vibes, but a lot of the time you can have your own room, as if it were a hotel, and then you can use the common areas like the kitchen, living room, study/workspace, outside area, a pool if they have one, and everything else that comes with the house. They're usually aimed at people who can work remotely, whether they have their own business or are working for a company. And since the pandemic, a lot more people can work remotely, so a lot more co-livings have been popping up all over the place, which is great news. But I've also met people at co-livings who were students, who were working on a passion project, or who were like in between jobs or on a sabbatical and trying to figure out their next step. It doesn't really matter what you do there. Just be aware that the vast majority of the people you'll be living with will be going about their usual work week on top of all these social events and everything else. So if you're just going there for a holiday or a vacation, then it's probably not the place for you. Because of this, co-living houses usually have great spaces and facilities for working. They have desks, co-working spaces, quiet rooms, Zoom rooms, whatever you need. But it's not just about having somewhere to sleep and work. Most co-living houses are all about community and learning. If you just want to sleep, work, and do your own thing, just go stay in a hotel or an Airbnb because co-livings aren't for you. But if you want a unique experience where you get to connect with and learn from people all over the world, staying in a co-living is one of the best things you can do. Now, Sun & Co in particular do this really well, like they have got it completely nailed down. They have a host or a few hosts in charge of the house and the events, and you can obviously go to them for any help if you need any. I think now they have a minimum stay of 10 days in their main house, so that might have changed. Mainly so people aren't constantly coming and going every few days. There are obviously some stays overlap others. For the pop-up co-living they do, and I've been to both of them so far, the minimum stay was 2 weeks and I stayed for a month both times. Basically, the longer you stay, the more involved you can get, the more you get to know people. And yeah, I just recommend staying for at least 2 weeks if you can. Every week they have a family meeting where you get together, learn a bit about each other, usually go around in a circle and say what you're grateful for, or they have a question that you answer that makes you think a little bit. And you get introduced to anyone new. And then you can come up with the social and professional events for that week ahead. This is usually done by people volunteering ideas and putting them to a vote, and by the host going around the circle and asking what skills people have that they could do a skill share on that people then vote on. So for instance, they might schedule a dinner out followed by cocktails and dancing, or a beach day, or a day trip to a local town via boat. Or it could be something simple like staying in and having a games night or a movie night or a yoga session. Then the professional events, and these might be skill shares or workshops on anything really, because you get people from all over the world doing all kinds of different jobs with all different skills. But I've been to ones on how to create an effective LinkedIn profile, or how to use mindset techniques to get in the zone for your business, or how to look after a team if you're self-employed. There are also things called roundtables where everyone gives input into a certain topic. For instance, if someone is researching it for their work or for a book they're writing. And there's also a thing called a mastermind where one person comes to the group with a problem they're facing and everyone gives their opinion and advice and maybe tells of their own experience if they think it could help. I've been to all of these things and they're all really cool. Then, once a week, or it was 4 times a week at the pop-up, they have family dinners where like one person or 2 people are in charge and come up with a recipe, and it has to fit all dietary requirements, of course. I'm a vegetarian. And then everyone pitches in to buy the ingredients and do the cooking. Now, I hate cooking. I wish I loved it. I wish I found it therapeutic and relaxing like a lot of people, but it just stresses me out and I end up with something burnt and inedible. I'm terrible at it, but I really enjoy the family dinners. They're a really great way to get to know each other, to bond, to have fun, to put some music on and drink some wine while cooking, and then sitting down for a nice dinner together, often followed by more wine and games or just general hanging out. It's just really nice. And at least I can help set the table, I can do the washing up, I can do chopping and prepping just about, and I let the other people do the actual proper cooking because I don't want to give people inedible stuff to eat. So a typical day in a co-living might be you get up, no rules, have breakfast in the kitchen or dining area, then head to a desk or a co-working space to do work. You might have a break for lunch and go eat at one of the local cafes or restaurants, then do some more work in the afternoon before one of the skill shares or masterminds. Then it's more work time or chill out time until dinner, and then maybe a social event in the evening, or just generally hanging out in the house or at a local bar or the beach or wherever, depending on your location. Now, you do get people working in a lot of different time zones. If they're from the US, for example, and they're in Europe, where a lot of the co-living places are. So some people might have the main part of the day off, where they can go and explore and do things, chill out, and then they will start work around 3 p.m, working until about 10 or 11. Or you get people like me who can pick and choose times to work. So I might try to do the normal 9 to 5, but inevitably I get sidetracked by things like long lunches with wine or something, and then I have to work in the evenings or the weekends a bit to make up for it. There are people doing all kinds of things.
Sorry for the interruption, but I just have to tell you about Give the Goodness Global, an incredible global outreach project run by American veteran Cody Grannon. Cody is passionate about helping those in need all over the world, whether it's raising money for a specific family he's met while traveling in Southeast Asia, giving food and supplies to people who would otherwise go without, or simply donating his time to help wherever help is needed. Please check out Instagram.com/GiveTheGoodnessGlobal to find out more, to donate money to their current cause, or to buy Give the Goodness Global merch, all the profits of which go straight back to helping those in need. Plus, 10% of all profits from Jessica Grace Coleman's book, Intentional Travel Transformation, are donated to this brilliant cause. You can find out more about this at traveltransformationcoach.com/books. So remember, be kind and give the goodness always. Thank you. And now back to the Travel Transformation Podcast.
Now, in the past, personally, I've likened staying at co-living houses to 2 different things. It's like living in halls or dorms at university. Honestly, it has that exact vibe, if you know what I mean. And it can sometimes be a bit like living in the Big Brother house, because you're hanging out with your housemates, like new housemates who you've just met, and doing events or tasks, just without all the cameras in the diary room. But basically, it's just really fun and completely different to what most of us have daily routines in our normal lives, normal air quotes. So why should you stay at co-livings? Let's boil it down to some simple bullet points. If you're a solo traveller, this is a great way of not being solo for long, because as soon as you get there, you'll be surrounded by people who will inevitably have a lot in common with you. I mean, they probably love travelling and visiting new places. They work remotely and are trying to balance work and play. They like trying new things, or they're committed to pushing themselves outside their comfort zones. And honestly, I find that 95% of people who stay at co-livings are open, honest, up for learning new things, open to things like self-development and mindset work and personal growth, and totally okay with cutting the small talk and having deep conversations about life, the universe, and all that stuff. You just won't find closed-minded, bigoted people in co-livings. It just doesn't happen. Because people who travel and who are open to a whole new world of possibilities, there's just no way they're going to be sexist or racist or xenophobic or closed-minded about anything, really. It's just how it works, and that's one of the reasons I love staying there. You're not going to get staying in co-livings. If you're a remote worker but hate working by yourself, this is a great way to do it, especially if there's a big office or co-working space where you can work with your housemates. At Sonoco's main house in Javier, Spain, they have a separate co-working office that is literally a 3-minute walk from the house, and that's included in the rate you pay to stay there. And it's a really nice office as well. Perfect. You will learn so much, both in terms of business and life skills, but also about yourself and about the world and other cultures. And it's not just from the skill shares and workshops either. Just by being around so many inspirational, fascinating people, hearing their stories and seeing how they live their life, you will learn a lot. It will also teach you a lot about yourself and the stories you tell yourself. Such as if you're a shy, quiet introvert who has told themselves their whole lives that they don't have the confidence to do anything like this. And in case you're wondering, yes, that was me. And you can read all about my story in my book, Intentional Travel Transformation, out now. I'll put the link in the show notes. Another thing is you'll probably get to stay in some pretty cool places that you might not otherwise get to see. For instance, I stayed in an amazing house in Thailand, and the villa Airbnb they hired for the Sun & Co pop-up was incredible. I would never usually get to stay in Airbnbs like that because it's meant for 20 people, and I obviously couldn't afford to hire it out myself. And honestly, I don't have enough friends who could fill it. Though actually, having said that, that's a story I used to tell myself. Since travelling more and staying at co-livings, I actually definitely have enough friends to fill it. It's just whether they'd all be in the same country at the same time because they're always moving around. Another point, it's a great way of travelling all over the world without actually having to travel all over the world. So unless you're going to a co-living house in your own country, which is awesome too, you'll probably have travelled to another country to get to the co-living in the first place. So there is actual travel involved. But then, by living with people from all over the world, you get to learn all about their countries, their backgrounds, how they grew up, their cultures and customs, their slang and swear words, and the way they see the world. It can show you so many different perspectives on things, but it can also show you just how similar we all are, no matter where we come from, no matter what we look like, or the language we speak. Most of us have extremely similar thoughts, feelings, fears, goals, and aspirations, and it makes the whole world seem a lot smaller and a lot more accessible. Besides, if you're doing the family dinners, you usually get to sample cuisines from all over the world, which can make you feel like you've travelled to multiple countries even when you physically only travelled to one. Magic. When you stay in co-living houses, you enter into a huge, worldwide community of global citizens. It is the most fun form of networking I've ever done, and I've made great friends at co-livings that I'm sure will be friends for life. And once you stay at one co-living, you'll meet people who stay in lots of other co-livings, and you'll hear stories of their digital nomad friends. And then you'll meet someone who knows your friend from across the world because they met in a co-living a year ago. It's like everyone knows everyone, and if you keep staying in co-livings, I'm sure you'll keep crossing paths with people that you've heard about already. It really is a community, one that spans the globe, but that actually seems pretty small. Just make sure you keep in contact with these people you meet because they'll most likely be some of the most awesome people you will ever come into contact with. And lastly, you will have so much fun. As a shy, quiet introvert, when I initially started staying in co-livings, believe me when I say it was way outside my comfort zone, and honestly, I was terrified. But meeting so many people from all over the world, attending all the professional and social events, exploring the local area together, and just hanging out, drinking wine and talking, it's just a lot of fun. I said it reminded me of being at uni, and it really does. You work in the day, you have fun at night, and you're living in a house with awesome housemates from all over the country and the world. Where else do you get to do that once you're past university age? Unless you go back as a mature student, obviously. It just doesn't happen. Where else do you get to do that apart from at university? It just doesn't happen. Okay, so those are the good parts, but I always want to give you a balanced view. So what are the bad parts? If you listen to episode 48 of the Travel Transformation podcast, you can hear what I think are the downsides of co-livings. But I do make a disclaimer in that episode saying that the downsides are basically first world problems and they are far outweighed by the benefits. Quickly, the main downsides I see: the potential for social and work burnout, especially if you're trying to do everything at once, and especially if you're going from co-living to co-living, no breaks in between. The lack of space if you do want to be alone for a while. For introverts, this is why I recommend getting your own room instead of sharing, so you have this space to retreat to. FOMO is real and it can result in you doing way too much. For me, this usually manifests itself in me staying up late and drinking wine while talking and playing games. It's a lot of fun, until the next morning when you have to get up early and get to work. And if this is happening most nights, it can catch up with you real quick. In a lot of co-livings, you might be sharing a bathroom, even if you're not sharing a room, though plenty of places do have private bedrooms with en-suites, you'll just have to pay more. It's not a massive problem, but something to keep in mind, especially if everyone's trying to get showered and ready at the same time. Sometimes you might come across some housemates that you don't get along with, but honestly, I find this is rare. Like I said, most people who stay in co-livings are open, honest, awesome people. But if it does happen, you can just keep out of their way, so it's not a massive deal. Also, I always find that even if you don't get on with someone, you can always learn from them. I think you can always learn something from any person or any situation, whether it's something about work, something about life, or something about yourself. And that's it. There are way more pros and cons to staying in co-livings, but a lot more pros than cons in general. But I would be here forever if I kept going. So the bottom line is, if you're not sure, give it a go. You don't have to stay there for months. Some do let you stay for a week or so. And if you don't like it, you don't ever have to do it again. But you might love it. And you might want to stay in more and more co-livings in the future, like me. In fact, also like me, you might get addicted to it. If you have any questions about co-living houses or being a digital nomad, do not hesitate to ask me. You can DM me on Instagram at Travel Transformation Coach, or you can email me at info@traveltransformationcoach.com. That's it for this episode. I hope it helped, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for listening to the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could please subscribe, rate and review, and spread the word, because it's my mission to help as many people as possible to flip the script on their lives and transform through travel. And remember, life is short, so let's make sure it's nothing short of amazing. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.